We have heard some lovely, sensitive words tonight, and I'd like to congratulate all of you. I'm afraid now you're stuck with me. And I cannot, for the life of me, write poetry. What I do write is comic verse every now and again, and I'm very glad the door is behind me. In the springtime, I went to Shakespeare country, and there I realised, this shows how ignorant I am, that Shakespeare has been dead for 400 years. I also was able to buy a duck that says on, do you know, a wee duck that I can float in my bath, and it says on it, to quack or not to quack. And I met a man who told me about how a local camping company had got a beautiful winter sale on of tents saying, now is the winter of our discontent. And I thought, people have been mucking around with Shakespeare. If anybody else can do it, so can I. So this is Northern Ireland's version of Romeo and Juliet, and it is called My Love is Tatey Bread. My name is Bridie Murphy, and I am a ghost of morn. I float around the countryside where I dander all alone. I frighten all the people and terrify the sheep by keening like a banshee while sitting in a heap. I was a fine sonsy last, and I came from near Armagh. I had lived there all my life along with Ma and Pa. My home was a wee small house. I love the way in Ulster we say wee small, do you? Upon a wee estate. Now I feel I must confess I got an urge to mate. Sure, my heart was filled with lust, and I made a big mistake when I began till to cry my simple single straight state. For all my friends were married as I sat upon the shelf, when up popped wee Willie John, who walked upon the 12th. My face was awful ugly, but my heart was full of corn. My wee Willie took one look, said he will get along, and sure I was delighted to find a man who fancied me, although he was short-sighted. Now Willie was no beauty, for he had an ugly mug. His ears stuck out of his head like the handle on a jug. He had a wee pot belly and a pair of bandy legs, but he turned my heart to jelly with the lovely things he said. He said he loved my figure and that it was great to hold. If he had me in his bed, he'd never feel the cold. We sheltered from the weather as we courted in a ditch. He got me that excited, I suffered from a stitch. We courted till I got into trouble, for my wee darling Billy put me up the bubble. Me ma, she went bananas, and me da, he did his nut. He called wee Will a twister, and me a dirty slut. Because I was a Mickey while wee Willie was a prod, none of our community thought our love was blessed by God. So I went up a mountain and I jumped right off a cliff. When I hit the ground below, I turned into a stiff. Wee Will went clean demented, he went off his bloomin' head. He cried, I love Big Bridie, and now she's Tatey Bread. She satisfied my every need, my lust she satiated. What am I going to do? She's gone and been cremated. He wandered in the graveyard and his gaze passed all around. My love has gone, he shouted, now she is underground. As he sat upon my grave, he pondered infinity, put a bullet in his head, and died with equanimity. The moral of this story is really very simple. Although for some in Ulster it will be a bitter pill, forget about your fighting, make sure you do agree, prevent another woman ending up a ghost like me. You laughing. I'm not chasing me out the door. This next, I don't know what you would call them, has actually been published not once but twice. Once by the Bard of Armagh in their first competition, where I was in the final, and the other was by Doghouse Press in Tralee, where I got into the final. I don't quite know why, the gesture of a Kerry competition. That was great fun. I love Kerry. They said, if you ask them where something is, they'll say, it's down there on the left. Or put their hand up like that. I didn't really understand that, but I love it. The young lass stood at the lamppost. The young lass strutted her ass. She giggled and wiggled and tittered, for she hoped a young man would pass. A young man came up on the highway, a young lad who was dressed to kill. Black leathers, Doc Martens and earrings, all designed for a young lass to thrill. The young lass kept on chewing gum. The long lass looked at his big tattoo. The young lass muttered, "How come? I know I fancy the likes of you." The young lad gazed at her great wee figure. Says he to her, "You're sticking out. With a lass like you to walk beside me, I sure would have a lot of clout." They went to live in the townland of Keady, where they rented a fine wee house. They worked among the poor and needy, till she found him in bed with another spouse. She yelled, "You are a disgrace. In fact, you are a terrible disaster, throwing my love back in my face." Then she went and busted his ghetto blaster. Obviously that was written sometime. The young lad flew into a rage. He stood and guldered, "I've had enough. My life is turning another page." Then he went to look for another bit of stuff. The young lass stood at the lamppost. The young lass strutted her ass. She wiggled and giggled and tittered as she hoped another lad would pass. I don't know how they do it nowadays. They seem to sort of do musical chairs, don't they? Jealousy, that's what it is. This one here is really quite dangerous. It's come into the garden. You're finding everything that is growing like mad now. "Come into the garden, Fred. Look at my plants, they are dead. Look at my asters, they're blooming disasters, and the weeds grow over my head. Come into the garden, John. Look what the slugs have done. They've eaten my beet, my daisies, my wheat. I'll murder them from now on. Come into the garden, Maisie, and see what's been done to my daisy. It is covered in holes, though there aren't any moles. It's enough to drive us all crazy. Come into the garden, Stephanie, and look at the fate of my Daphne. Its leaves are all brown from the root to the crown. It looks as if I don't have any. Come into the garden, Bill." Where is it? He's down the back. "I've just had an awful thrill. I've looked at my flocks. It's dead. So are my stocks. I wish I knew what to kill. Come into the garden, Mary. My cabbages are really contrary. They're covered in bugs and beetles and slugs. They're not fit to feed my canary. Come into the garden, friend. I feel I've come to the end of digging and weeding and planting and seeding. I'll give up as I go round the bend." Now the reason I say that's dangerous, I said that, I repeated that to my husband once, and he looked at me and he gave me an evil grin, and he said, "Come into the garden, Jock," and I had to say, "Stop it." This is, I have been married for a long time, a very long time. I have got the alternative lifestyle. I have just stuck to the one man and fought him all the way through. And there was one day I was up storytelling in Derry, Londonderry, whatever you call it nowadays. And I was being extremely unreasonable because I felt I was cold and wet. And I couldn't be cold and wet because I was in a car with the heater on. And arrived in the door having had a really pretty horrible journey home with the windscreen wipers going. And God love my husband, he had a very nice meal for me, the candles lit on the table and a glass of wine. I think he fancied his chances. And I felt after all these years, I love him. And I looked at him, you can say, oh. I looked at him and I said my favourite poem, you know, Yeats had I the heavens embroidered cloths. And I said it the whole way through, and I think I said it quite nicely. And you know what his reaction was? "You're not getting it." So I said it again, and this time his reaction was, "I think I'm ringing bells for the men in here. I think his reaction was that time, I don't know what it is you want, but you're not getting it. The answer is no. And I said, I'm trying to tell you I love you. And he said, oh. And then I thought, Yeats really needs to be rewritten. So she wishes for a pound of steak. Had I a pound of sirloin steak and an ounce of parsley butter, succulent, tender, juicy steak cooked with vegetables and butter, I would place that steak on your plate. But I, being poor, have only pork chops. I have placed my pork chops on your plate. Savour my chops and fine tasty onions. Do you know something? He said I'd eat that. I then started to write, come away, oh human child. But I got stuck on that. Come away, oh you human child. Or come away, oh great big hunk. Come upstairs, let's do a bunk. And I can't go any further than that. Now this is me trying to be serious. When I am old and grey, which is good for a laugh, when you consider I am old and grey. Because I love that poem, when I grow old I will wear purple. When I am old, I shall spit grapestones and flick peas across restaurants. I will drink too much, grow tipsy, and sing rude songs very loudly. I will belch when I please and break wind with indignation. And I just might be quite difficult. Actually, I think I've got there already. This is my last poem because I'm sure I've outstepped my time. Who goes there? I had a car accident and I got out of bed. I wasn't supposed to because they put an injection in my knee, but I'm not letting anybody else go to the loo for me. And when I got out of bed, I saw a ghost. And I looked at it and I thought it was my mother. And then I looked again and it wasn't my mother, it was me. But I'm actually getting to the stage where if I'm in that situation, I'm seeing my grandmother and that's even worse. This is called Who Goes There? Well, this was published by Doghouse Press too, and my husband was nearly sick because it was in the same anthology as a poem by Seamus Heaney. Poor Seamus. Holy Moses, take a look in the mirror. Who's that spook? Who's that awful looking mole? Surely I'm not yon old dog. Once my hair was dark as night, now it is an awful sight. It looks grey as grey can be. Surely that cannot be me. Once those eyes were sparkling blue, as they saw so straight and true, now through glasses they must peer. Goodness gracious, they look queer. My skin was fair, soft and smoothed. Horror, it's become all grooved. Furs wrinkled, crease my brow. I am looking awful now. That's not me, I'm having fits. Look at all those extra bits of lumpy flesh hanging down. I look like an ugly clown. Once that gut was firm and straight. Look at it, I'm full of hate. See that hump, it's sticking out. I've been drinking too much stout. Look at me, I'm all bent. I wonder where my posture went. Sure, that can be no other. That's not me, that's my mother. Thank you very much.